Hey, I'm Doug Johnson. I'm the brand manager and creative director for Heroes and Villains. And yeah, so we're here to just kind of talk about, the industry that we have lived in for so long and give some insight into the behind the scenes there. I've been working in this industry for roughly 17 years, both on like a wholesale side of the business as well as this direct-to-consumer brand that we've embarked on. So I've been working on Heroes and Villains since the inception of the concept, which would be 2017. We weren't actually in the market until 18. So yeah, 6 or 7 years there that I've been focused on Heroes and Villains. The podcast is called Concept Pending, which is a very relatable term to everybody in this room.
I'm not going to say I've woken up in the middle of the night with that, burned in my eyeballs, but...
Well, I mean, it's like a filter on your computer every day. You're like, is it pending? Is it approved? So real quick, just to explain concept pending, like I think it's just a cool term in general. Clearly you have a concept, but it's like not yet actually there. It's just pending. You've got this idea. And that's what we deal with on a daily basis here at Heroes and Villains, because we're creating ideas, and these ideas are based on other people's actual IP and ownership, right? So we're licensed to create and develop for these IPs, who we then have to submit these ideas with them. And at that point, it's called concept pending. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to meet a lot of cool people. We work with a lot of great properties, a lot of really cool content. I'd have to say, the brand kind of speaks for it, but my favorite is by far Star Wars. I love Star Wars due to the fact of the content is just endless. Just like the opening scene or the opening card of Star Wars in general just opens it up to being such a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Just like, it's not definitive. It's like it could be any time and it could be anywhere. I think that's the beauty of Star Wars, and that's what people gravitate to, that it's just like this wide open world that could be anything. Favorite collections, if you go and look on our website, I mean, I've had many over the years. I love them all. They're all our beautiful children. I really enjoyed some of the more like wildlife and camp collections that we've done in the past, just because of the idea of bringing Star Wars into like our world, and how we have all these like camp style pieces that resonate with us, and it's like this trend or whatever, but to kind of incorporate Star Wars into that idea, I think was really fun, because there's just like this broad array of outdoor and creatures, and just like the natural world of Star Wars, I think is really cool. Aside from that, I really do like the X-Men collection that we dropped recently. It is just a beautiful collection, and it's something new and fresh for the brand that I think really resonated well. So those are a couple of my favorites. Yeah, and so from the podcast, I guess, like I said, more insight into our industry. We have a lot of incredibly talented folks here at Heroes and Villains on all sides of the business. So yeah, this will be a weekly deal, and we will have different folks on here talking about their expertise and sharing about what they do and what their favorite things are and things of that nature. So with all that, I mean, I guess I can pass along the mic.
I am clockwise from you, so...
to my homeboy Greg, sitting to my left.
Yeah, my name's Greg Holken. I'm a graphic designer with Heroes and Villains. I've been working with the team since October of 2020. Although I did help out with a Star Trek collection before that, but that was really just, I wasn't on the team yet. As far as my background's concerned, I've been a graphic designer for about 20 years, worked at all levels of that as a profession. I've worked in small studios on a local level. I've worked for companies that handle big brands. I've been a web designer. I've done user interface, user experience stuff, large format, print, apparel, illustration, branding, catalogs, toy design, packaging, magazines, ads, etc. Just a whole giant pile of stuff over the years. As far as my favorite license to work on, kind of shifts a little bit, depending on what is happening and how easy whatever collection I'm working on goes through. So frequently, I really like working with the folks at Paramount for Star Trek because they're good collaborators, they're easy to get along with, and they, bring a lot to the table in terms of knowledge of the property and willingness to work to make things happen. However, at the moment, my favorite's probably Critical Role. They are a tabletop role-playing game property. They run a streaming concern on Twitch, and they post videos to YouTube where they play through a game as fantasy characters in a world they've created, and they are lots of fun to work with. We happen to know some people that work with them, like have known them before they were affiliated with Critical Role, and so our relationship with them is really, really good. I like working with Nickelodeon. Again, they're good collaborators. If you have something you want to work on, they are willing to work with you to make it happen. We had, shortly after I came to work for Heroes and Villains, some things we want to do with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that were a little odd, I think considering what they normally produce, but they were game, and they worked with us back and forth, got it approved. That's just, it's fun to be able to work with licensors that are open to that and willing to collaborate and create an exchange of ideas like that. Favorite collection? I got a specific answer. It's not a bigger collection. We did one for Dungeons and Dragons based on a character named Vecna with kind of a heavy metal vibe to it, which was fun because Vecna's kind of a deep cut villain who is extremely popular with a lot of fans and has been for decades, but hasn't gotten a lot of love in terms of, shirts or merchandise or anything. So, yeah, that's me. I'm going to pass it on to Heather.
Woo! So, my name is Heather Lampy, and I've been with Heroes and Villains almost 2 years. Prior to that, I have about 12 years total experience in the fashion industry. I have a fashion design degree from Purdue, and I spent about 2 years working for a custom bridal boutique, about 6 years working for Fossil Handbags, doing handbag and wallet design, specializing in cute little animal coin purses, and then about 2 years at Rebel Athletic, doing wholesale practice wear, dance uniforms, and cheer uniforms. And my favorite property of all time is Harley Quinn. But I've also got a soft spot for Leia. I've always been a Star Wars fan also, but ever since working here, I've been researching it a lot more, and I've developed a lot of appreciation for the depth and the intricacy of the world and just how much detail is in the entire Star Wars world. I feel like it's really unique to Star Wars. I don't know of any other property that has that much depth to the universe. And my favorite collection on the website right now is the Mad Love collection I did for Harley Quinn. It was for the anniversary of her debut comic, Mad Love. I got to work with some really cool artwork on that. But another favorite of mine is the Satin Sleep collection that we did recently for PJs, which are super comfy, and I had a lot of fun working on the repeat prints. And that's about it, I think. Myra.
So my name is Mayra de Hoyos. I focus on accessories on the team. I've kind of been helping Doug since he got the Star Wars license, kind of on and off, but I've been officially full-time on the team for the past 2.5 years, which will probably explain like the avalanche of bags that are on the site now. So before that, I was focusing on bags probably for the past 13 years, but more on the wholesale side. So I'm really excited to get to focus on this stuff now. So as far as my favorite license, I guess I'm just gonna have to go with the Wars, right? Like there's just so much. It seems like the content is never ending. It's timeless, just a great license. One of my favorite collections, I would say it's the Princess Leia collection. I think that was one of the first collections that Heather and I got to collaborate, so it was really cool to be able to have like an entire women's perspective with apparel and the matching accessories, and it was just like a really fun project to work on.
Girl power.
Yeah. Last but certainly not least.
The digital man on the other end. AC, you there, bro?
All right.
Welcome to the party. It's your turn, dude.
My name is Alberto Cortez, better known as AC here. I'm one of the product designers for Heroes and Villains, 100% powered by coffee. Before working for H&B, I worked on graphic and web design for various marketing agencies, both here and in Puerto Rico. and have a few years in experience as a comic book illustrator. As you know, we work with a lot of license, but my favorites probably are Star Wars, Marvel, and D&D. From the work I've done, it's hard to pick a favorite, but the experience I had designing and developing the metal DTG lineup for Godzilla has to be there on the top of things I worked on. It really brought my grunge and noisy vibe to it. So yeah, so that's me. Truly happy to be here and be part of such an awesome and creative team HMB is.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so Heroes and Villains has evolved somewhat, over the past couple years. It's a funny story, the way it all started and came together, because it really was something that we were all doing. We just didn't know that it was this. Myra and Greg and I have all worked here on the wholesale side of the business for several years prior to the birth of this brand. And little did we know that whole time we were actually working towards this. So, when we worked back on the other side, so first, just so we're all clear, when we say the other side, it means beholden to a retailer and buyer. So the way that works is, we're a manufacturer, we design product, and then we sell to retailers who have buyers that come in and kind of dictate what they're going to buy and what the design may be. That's a whole nother side of the business. It's fun, but it's not, you don't have as much creative freedom, and you are not necessarily the controller of your destiny at that point. So anyway, we were working over there, and we secured the rights for Star Wars years ago, and that's kind of where it all started. We started making these really awesome collections, and at that point in time, I was a category lead in all men's accessories. That's, inclusive of SLG, small leather goods, accessories, jewelry, all these things. And then there was the bags department and headwear and hosiery and all these other departments. So everybody kind of specializes in a certain area of the business. And so, after we got Star Wars, we really wanted to do something different, because you think about Star Wars has been done since the 1970s. It's everywhere. I mean, the larger percentage of the world population knows what Star Wars is. I mean, whether they've seen the films or not, it's a world brand, right? So the research is what really will set you apart. So you have to be cognizant of what's been done, and you have to find a new route to make it exciting and interesting for the customer. So that's what we were focused on years and years ago. And we started building these incredible collections that were cross-category, meaning that we would create headwear, backpacks, small leather goods, accessories, jewelry, hosiery, everything that and just head to toe. And it all tied into the same theme and same level of detail and level of quality. And so from there, we were like, we really have something here. It really resonated with the fans, with the licensor, the folks we work with over at Lucas were blown away at the ideas. And our backpack division over there just really started hitting home runs on some of those designs, and just kind of shaking up the Star Wars market in general as far as backpacks were concerned, because we took a route more focused on the everyday commuter and an older audience. Working with Lucas over the years, we were invited to participate in their pavilion at San Diego Comic-Con, and that was really kind of where the whole idea came to be. Actually going out and meeting the fans and being in front of that fan base, and within that Lucas Pavilion, it's really, it drives all the Star Wars fans straight there. Seeing everybody with our backpacks, seeing folks that had already purchased the backpack from the previous collections showing up buying the new one, we knew we really had something going there. As a company and as a whole, we were focused on building some brand recognition, and Heroes and Villains was birthed out of that, right? So like our perspective on Heroes and Villains development was an older consumer and focused on quality of goods that's going to, sustain you over several years. We're very focused on the collector culture. I mean, there's so much, it just kind of grew from there, right? Like having done San Diego Comic-Con and the success there, it started branching out and we started securing more rights within Lucas, Marvel, DC, and all of these other licensors that we work with. And we were challenged to now grow that business and replicate the things that we have done, in the past with Star Wars in this business. Now, another aspect of this business that you may not always think about is that marketing plays a huge role here, right? So when you take the wholesale side of the business out of it and you're now a direct-to-consumer brand, everything relies on marketing. You can't get the product in front of the people without proper marketing, without a website, without social media, without all these things. So that's kind of the turning point of me stepping out of the wholesale business and into this marketing direct-to-consumer business. In the beginning of Heroes and Villains in 2017, my preparations were for following San Diego Comic-Con, where we would make our debut as the brand. And so working with all the folks that I had always worked with on the wholesale side of the business, we built 2 incredible collections, all kind of centered around the Battle of Endor. One half of it was focused on the commando unit on Endor, and the flip side was the scout trooper and the speeder bikes. So we had incredible talent in the building that, we built that out. Had a couple exclusives. It was just an amazing experience, great, turnout, and we were off to the races from there. And at that point, it was basically just me working for Heroes and Villains. I was like the only Heroes and Villains employee, I suppose, at the moment. And that kind of carried on for a little bit there, maybe a year and a half or so. And then I got the green light to hire my homie Greg as a full-on Heroes and Villains employee.
Yeah, right?
And then it was just Greg and I.
For a while.
Yeah. So 2 dudes just geeking out on Star Wars and making cool stuff. And that was fantastic. And Greg is an encyclopedia of knowledge in all things pop culture. And he blows me away with his depth of knowledge of all this stuff. And he's also a very talented illustrator and designer and everything else. So he fit right into the team. He's super easygoing dude. You couldn't meet a nicer guy. As everybody here knows, and everybody there will get to know. All right, so we got Greg on the team, and things started to kind of move faster. We were able to get more development pushed through. Greg had better knowledge of some of the other properties that we were venturing into, and so he was a huge asset in that and doing that. And so I think at the same time, I can't remember if it was before or after, but at some point I started working with AC remotely. So AC was basically a freelancer for us in the beginning. So I would have specific projects and I worked back and forth with AC remotely. I mean, it was forever before I even met the dude. We just, it was strictly messaging and emails. AC, I already knew he was an incredible illustrator because I had seen his work. Not only that, but the speed that this dude works at is incredible. So a lot of our exclusive ideas for graphics and things like that, that's AC. I can kind of put together the idea and talk to him about the elements or whatever, but in the end it's his work and it's incredible. So I know, a lot of our fans have seen a lot of the exclusive pieces that we've done at shows, and
that's usually AC, right?
Yeah. The majority, I'd say 99.9% of that is AC's artwork, and that that brings up another whole facet of the business and how we're able to work with these licensors and how the partnerships are so important that allow everybody here to kind of create their own Star Wars assets and artwork, and that kind of carries across some of the other properties. Some of them are much more protective, some are more lenient, so that's a whole nother story, a whole nother podcast, I suppose. But that's AC. We got AC working on the sidelines, kind of. It's Greg and I, and we're pushing marketing, and the brand's starting to kind of get some traction, and we're getting a lot of respect from the licensors that we're working with. You know, I think the whole time Myra was kind of in the background as well, not officially on the team, but officially helping out and developing, you know, really awesome accessories. Myra's an incredible bag designer, works great with, like, in terms of, you know, creating patterns and artwork, and just like a overall fantastic designer. You know, obviously the bags are key to what we do. Accessories are key to what we do. So Myra was a huge help throughout that, but not officially moved over. And then Myra came over, and we were off to the races, and we haven't stopped since, and everything was going great. And then we kind of looked at it and we were like, man, like Myra gets it. She does great, and it's all kind of like derivative from what Greg and myself have kind of put into motion, and it's all like dude focused. Like it's a couple dudes designing product, and we need this like female perspective on how do we like broaden that. Along came Heather, and we looked at Heather's background, and it was incredible, the work she had done. Like, obviously, you know, fashion degree from Purdue, that's nothing to like shy from. That's pretty amazing in itself. But then like the work she had done in accessories plus women's fashion. So women's fashion was like the key, like legit, she knows what's going on. Here comes Heather at the same time, and I don't know, you know, if AC, I'm sure AC recalls. So AC hit me up, and he's like, hey, can you write me a recommendation on LinkedIn? You know, because I worked with AC for years, you know, on side projects. And I was like, bro, I'm not going to write you a recommendation. I'm going to hire you, man. Like, why don't you just come over? Are you, like, looking for a job, dude? Because, yeah, we got you one.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, AC, all these folks are talents that don't just come by every day. But, like, at that point in time, I was like, dude, this guy, like, we have to have this dude. He gets it. He's into the comics. He's collector culture. You know, he's the dude. So it was awesome. It was like Voltron. Like, here comes AC. Here comes Heather. Here's Myra, Greg. Like, it all just came together at that moment, and it's been incredible working with everybody here, and it's just getting better and better. And I think everybody here has a solid grasp on what the brand stands for and what we should be doing. And me as a creative director, I try to just kind of give them the freedom to explore those things and then run with it. It's been awesome. So that's kind of like the quick, like, where we all kind of fit into the process as it grew. I don't know if anybody else has insights or thoughts or experience they want to.
Like I said earlier, I've worked a lot of different places, and in general, this is one of the best environments I've been in, period. Just like...
Yeah, I hired you as a packaging designer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Greg was really a packaging designer originally when we were launching our...
stationery, gifts?
Yeah, gifts department and wholesale, which evolved into stationery and desk accessories type of thing.
Which I had just come off working for a game and toy company.
Right, you were making like board games and stuff, yeah. So yeah, like we were launching this gifts category, and it was like, you know, one of the key factors in gifts is packaging, like big time package. Like we need to, like there had never been really much emphasis on making cool packaging. And so that's where Greg came from initially, and I'm glad that you're not just a packaging designer anymore.
I mean, not that it's boring, but me too.
Yeah.
Right?
So things evolve. Like everybody gave a more thorough background of themselves. I think I was accessories from the get-go. Like I worked at a leather goods company that made collegiate and outdoor branded. It was a licensed business still, but we made like collegiate and outdoor branded like leather belts, wallets, and handbags and stuff like that. We sold a lot of stuff to like college bookstores and stuff like that. Very small company. That was like my introduction into like the industry as a whole. When I came over here, that was my specialty, right? Like I had traveled a bunch to China in those couple years that I worked at that company, so I had like an understanding of the back end of what the manufacturing side of that looks like. That's part of what got me over here, was that like when I saw the job opening, like 14 years ago over here, it was like overseas experience in sourcing and small accessories experience and all this small leather goods. And I was like, holy moly, this is me. Like, this is me. And I had basically had to knock the door down to get in here, but I got in. Yeah, I quickly progressed. And I think that that's one of the cool things here, is that you go from being doing this one thing, and then you kind of pick up something else and you start playing with that, and then you're doing that, and then so now you've acquired the knowledge of both of these projects, and then you move on and pick something else up. It's like, I started with designing wallets, and now I'm designing bomber jackets and knit sweaters and things. Like, the progression is just awesome, and it's not like a class you take. You know what I mean? It's like you just jump in and start doing it. And
well, it's like it's not like a lot of different companies, different places you could work, because there's not that much room to maneuver and pick up different skills and jump on different stuff, right? Like stay in your lane type of mentality. Yeah. I used to work at a place called Century up in Oklahoma, and they sell martial arts stuff, and everybody was doing the same stuff, right? They were either designing DVD covers or making posters or catalogs, stuff like that. Not really jumping around quite as much as you can here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's part of what makes it interesting. It can be a struggle. It can be frustrating because you don't have all the answers all the time. It's also very fulfilling to like learn that as you go. You obviously will fail because you're trying new things, but that's okay because that's how you learn, right? It's very cliche. But yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things working here, is that it's not just coming in and pushing a button every day,
No, definitely not. A lot of the time it feels like there's no button. There's the appearance of a button, but really you climb up underneath and there are all these pulleys and wheels and dials and crap, and yeah.
Or there's just like an endless wall of buttons and you don't know which one to push.
None of them are labeled, all the same color.
I would say that's probably what was the most appealing thing about wanting to work full-time on HV, is that we all have the opportunity to be as creative as possible. We're never told stay in your lane. We kind of get to dabble in a lot of things. I mean, I designed bags for 10 years, nothing but bags. And ever since being here, I've done footwear, headwear, cold weather stuff. And it's just been really fun getting to learn all these other item types and techniques. And it's just really cool. It almost feels like the possibilities are endless. And Doug's been really cool about letting us all kind of take the lead on some collections or some direction. And, not a lot of creative directors do that. So I think that's why you get such a cool variety of looks, but, within the site, but they all kind of still stay true to the brand. So that's another really cool thing about working here.
Another thing that's cool is on the regular, people on the team will find a new type of item, right, that is interesting, and we'll come to Doug with it, and we'll be like, well, this is what we're seeing, this is what the thing is, and then we'll do it.
Next thing you know, we're making something completely new that's not in the market, or whatever, like something we've never touched before, and now we're getting into it. And yeah, like Myra's saying, like as a creative director, that doesn't mean that I tell everybody what to do. Honestly, like in terms of telling people what to do, I'd tell them to bring me ideas, because I've learned through my career and the folks, that managed me in the past, the mentality of your idea is your project will allow that designer or creator to be more passionate about what they're working on and to believe in it and to pour their heart into it. If I sit over you and I dictate exactly what you're going to do, then it's my project and you're just the hamster that I'm, working the wheel with.
I literally had a gig once where the owner brought in a client and had the client stand over my shoulder saying, no, up, no, over, no. Hey, why can't we get other designer over here? I really like them more.
I will say this is one of my first jobs where I get to work with a whole bunch of nerds, and it's probably why it's a favorite, because as much as I love fashion and like the engineering of clothing and all of the technical stuff that goes along with it, I realized in my experience that I'm not the best fit for the fashion industry as a whole, just because it tends to focus a little bit more on more materialistic, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but more on like the look and status, and that just doesn't really resonate with me personally. I'm a lot more grounded and nerdy, stone cold nerd always. And so finding a job where I can work with fashion but work with nerds and people who are a little bit more passionate about the depth of the characters we're working on has been kind of a game changer.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like telling story through product development, right? Like being able to tell a story that a true fan understands through just the items that we make is awesome. But yeah, like your point, I remember first working with Greg, him bringing me like super nerd ideas, and I was like, hell yes, dude, let's go. Like, and he was like, oh, so no, I mean, like in my old job, they would have told me to shut up and quit being a nerd, but like, so it's right. Cool. Like, this is cool. And I'm like, yes, dude, like that's why you're here. Yeah, I mean, you can't take the route of I know more. Like nobody ever knows more. That's just like a BS thing. Like, oh, I know everything about Star Wars. I know everything about Star Trek. The hell you do.
Right.
Like
that's
I
not
promise you
possible.
Those are fighting words, bro. Like you can't just say that. But
it's also setting yourself up for a fall, right?
Exactly. To be tested, right?
The second the words are out of your mouth.
But, you know, I can say for sure that Greg knows way more about D&D than I. Greg knows way more about Star Trek than I. So if I'm going to listen to somebody about ideas within those properties, yeah, it's Greg. I'm going to listen to what, you know, he has to offer. So that's just what you have to understand, is that everybody has their, you know, unique talents and what their nerdism is, and you have to just foster that, and you'll have awesome product.
That's another thing that's nice about this place, is that everybody understands that it's okay to be interested in things. Not just necessarily nerdy things like Star Wars or Star Trek or anything like that, but just stuff, right? Just wanting to know how things work, or wanting to know about a thing, you know, or being interested in things is okay, you know?
Yeah, that's creativity, man. And I think that, you know, I've thought about this a lot. Like Heroes and Villains, Star Wars, like all the properties that we work with, they're all built around being creative. Like that's all it is. It's storytelling, and it's using your mind, you know, like D&D, like that's completely built in your mind. Obviously, you have this like parameter of rules that people have laid down or whatever, and that's why I think this brand like resonates really well with this, you know, creative nerd world, because like, you know, people make their own stuff. Like you have the makers involved. Like people expand the universes of these ideas with their own hands at home, just creating things. And I think that that's like the epitome of what this whole thing is. It's just be creative and don't second guess yourself. Don't be reserved. Don't worry about liking, you know, things and what other people will think of you for liking those things. And I think that's like, you know, a huge part of it. Just be creative and create. Sorry, that was a weird philosophical like rant, but
nerds rule.
Yeah. Well, everybody's a nerd. Yeah. It's just some people try to hide it, you know, because they don't feel comfortable being that nerd because they're not in the environment.
Well, because they care what jerks think, right?
Yeah.
It's like...
But that jerk's into something too, and he's just like insecure about it.
Bingo, right there.
Right. Mm-hmm. Or if they don't have any interest, that would be really boring.
If they don't have any interest, who cares what they think? Yeah. Like, I mean...
Freaking robot. Like.
That's why they hate the nerds, because they see the nerds having so much fun.
But I mean, it's all over. Like, you can be a nerd about anything. Like, about sports, about like...
Well, like back in the day, you know, actually people may still do this, but there used to be these games for baseball that were not really board games. They were just books of statistics. And dudes would sit down. It's like a fantasy league, but you just have these books of statistics, and you're like playing just by yourself, not with other people like a fantasy league.
100%. 100%. Yes.
So the guy that created the BCS rankings for college football, my understanding, and I'd have to fact check this, and I never have because only so many hours in a day, Doug. Basically, he was a big fan of, I want to say it was OU college football, University of Oklahoma, and for the first time in his life, they lost a game, and it messed him up as a kid. And so he started looking at statistics and eventually developed this ranking system.
Okay.
Right? Yeah.
All right. Well, not a big Sooner fan. Just
Well,
put that out there.
I can't help it. I grew up 20 minutes outside Norman, so.
In case y'all didn't catch this, we are from Texas.
Yes.
Well, you are from Texas. I'm from Oklahoma. It's true. It's
You're
fair.
in Texas.
You guys have the good grace to allow me within 20 feet of you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Greg's from Oklahoma. He's now in Texas. I hear a lot about Greg's background all the time as a country boy out in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
What about you guys? I don't know that I know. Where were you originally?
I'm originally from Texas, but I spent a big chunk in California, so I like to say I'm from both.
I am also a country girl, but I'm half Texas redneck and half Midwest redneck. But I was born in Texas, and then I basically grew up east of St. Louis in southern Illinois in farmland.
Right on.
Yeah, but I am Texas girl at heart.
So we want to talk about what the podcast is actually going to be instead of us just blabbing. So, when we thought about, HV building a podcast, like, oh, let's talk about Star Wars. Let's talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, we will, but...
Yeah, we will. It will be part of the conversation for sure. But again, back to my point, I don't know everything about everything, but I want to talk more about, the things that people on the flip side don't necessarily know about, what we do on a day-to-day, and what everybody's expertise are and how all of that plays a role in the brand. And so we'll be looking into, different item type design, how the collections are born, how we, set the direction, what all goes into that. We'll be talking about the manufacturing side of that, how you, actually build out the art and the tech packs and things, and how that goes to the factory and sampling and sample approval and all these things that we work back and forth with the licensor. So I think that's a big thing that, a lot of folks ask us about, how do you do this and how do you work with these brands and all these things. So I think it would be good to give some insight there. I mean, we have so many people in this building that have so much information and things to share that the everyday fan maybe doesn't know all of that. Marketing, and when I say marketing, it's a huge scope, right? That's photography, videos, social media, advertising, website, all those things. So we want to give everybody kind of an insight into the world of the brand building, I suppose.
The different pieces, how they work, how they fit together,
Exactly. I think that pretty much sums up.
Yeah, I think that's what we've been talking about, yeah.
So if there's anything you guys want to know about the process or what we do, please send your questions. We'll try to answer them.
If you have any questions, hit us up on our email at podcast@heroesvillains.com.
And you can always check out our stuff on heroesvillains.com.
There you
to
go.
get a good look at what we're actually doing. Yeah.
But yeah, if you hit us up on the email, hopefully we'll try to, incorporate the answers to your questions as we move along, and we look forward to it. Also, Heroes Villains brand on Instagram. Check us out. You can see all the newest drops, a lot of our fan base, just a lot of the fun things that we do. So follow us, check us out, subscribe, and we'll be back next time.